My name is Dr. James Day. I am a research associate here at the Quantum Matter Institute, and I am an experimental condensed matter physicist. The Quantum Matter Institute is a place that houses physicists, chemists, engineers, folks who do experiments, folks who do theory and simulation. One of the downsides of having extreme expertise is we often work with blinders on. It can be difficult to imagine new ways of thinking about the things that we're used to thinking about. It can be great to speak to colleagues, so as a physicist I can benefit in speaking to chemists and engineers, but artists have a way of asking questions and reframing their understanding of what you're doing in ways that I just don't think would ever be possible for me to do. So it is helpful for scientists in smaller ways, in that it can help us fine-tune how we communicate what we do to others, whether that's other experts or the general public. But my big hope is that it actually eventually helps someone reimagine the work they're doing in a way that breaks down some new avenues of thinking and potentially results in a paradigm shift in some way or another. It's almost always disruption that leads to the biggest, best outcomes eventually. So one thing that I've really benefited from personally with the Quantum Studio residency, with Javiera Tejerina's visit last year, who worked mostly in sculpture and a bit in paints, and again I'm finding this year with Caroline Delétoille, is when I'm thinking about my work and thinking about communicating my work, as a scientist by default, I use words. They have really encouraged me to use pictures when I'm thinking about what it is I'm doing and when I'm trying to communicate it. And when I'm dealing with the general public and working on analogies or metaphors that might help to explain what it is I'm working on, I try to make those very visual. So I think it's really opened up how effectively I'm able to communicate with the general public and with experts here in the building. So the collaboration with the Belkin Art Gallery, the QMI, and the Department of Physics has been extremely valuable. The French Consulate has played an extremely important role in this program as well, in helping us financially bring these artists over and have them work with us for a month.
Hi, I'm Shelly Rosenblum. I'm curator of academic programs here at the Morris and Helen Belkin Art Gallery, which is an academic gallery at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver. We specialize in post-war avant-gardes, very strong in works from Canada and British Columbia and Vancouver specifically, and with outreach representing works that relate to areas of interest in the collection. My role at the Belkin is to establish programs that allow us to expand our sense of research, what it means to do research out of a contemporary art gallery at a university, and pedagogy as well. Working with the Stewart Blusson Quantum Matter Institute has been a great opportunity to experiment in building new models of research and knowing, where we have a non-extractive relationship between the arts and the sciences, so that we come together and try to find a third way to develop a new model or lens with which to look back on the work that we're already doing ourselves and find a new way to move forward together in knowledge building. So when we bring artists and scientists together, we can learn from one another's practices and methods and develop a expanded way of understanding what art science would be. So one of the things that's really exciting in thinking about the lab and the studio is analogous, is their space is not just for creation, but also for experiment, for developing a hypothesis and testing it. And often it's the failures as much as the successes that allow us to move forward in ways of understanding. The methods of the artist and the scientist are often very similar. There's a real understanding, homology, and comfort when they visit each other's spaces, and they found a language. It's not always easy to find a language. It's often through metaphor, through analogy, that allow them to try to interrogate what they take for granted in their own disciplines, and in that conversation to understand more deeply the work that they try to do together, which is not just fundamentals of communication and the building blocks of understanding, but to develop ways of experimenting to deepen the work that they do. We're incredibly grateful to the French Consulate for allowing us to expand a deep and abiding interest in art and science to bring French scientists to UBC and BC artists to institutions in France to expand a conversation beyond our campus and the artists in Vancouver. It's not just an expansion in voices that we're hearing from, but of course their cultural assumptions and practices among people and institutions that allow us to denaturalize what we take for granted when we work together with others beyond our sphere of familiarity. And that's true for something as specific with Caroline's visit and the kind of archives and institutions she's working in France, to exploring different archives and how they resonate for her in the French context, and how that might speak to us in a Canadian context, has been incredibly valuable in projects that she's brought to us beyond the one she's working on now. So that kind of mutual opening up of ways of thinking and looking back on what we already do is immensely powerful in moving forward how we're doing our work. What has been most fascinating to me in working closely with Caroline and looking at the works that she's starting to produce here and the projects that she's shared with us in thinking about coming here, is that she really thinks very hard about the paradox of the quantum, the relationship between trying to look closely at the things we can't see and to understand them, what that means, and to think about the relationship between the infinite and the particular, the seen and the unseen, and also the paradoxical nature of communication through poetic tools, like I said, metaphor and analogy, the knowable and the unknowable, and the role of the artist to try to fill in on both sides of that, but also to make those connections. That's a very powerful aspect of her practice. So in trying to find a way into quantum ideas, into quantum physics, when we start outside of that vocabulary and that practice, it's a really beautiful kind of access to these ideas and experiences. So much of what's exciting about a project like this is really the leap of faith that it requires, just in communication and aligning objectives, and how to really do this collaboratively, and to think beyond representing the area from which we come, and to work in a kind of textured, collaborative way. Also made clear how important a project like this is to push beyond your regular forms of communication, discourse, and discipline to create something new. So I'm just wildly appreciative of the opportunity, and also just the sheer delight of doing a project like this.
I am Caroline Delétoille. I'm an artist in residence here at the Quantum Matter Institute and the campus of the University of British Columbia, and thanks to the Embassy of France. I'm working also with the Belkin Art Gallery, and I'm super happy to be here. I'm working on the field of painting and around the question of memory, the traces, and also the dream that comes around it. I'm here in this Quantum Institute as part of a project, an art project that's been initiated in France with a quantum physicist Aurore Jung from the Laboratoire Cassel-Bruxelles of the Collège de France in Paris, and also with a philosopher, Céline Boisserie-Lacroix, who is specialized in the collaboration between artists and scientists. And we work together around this question of how do we make sensitive the world of the unknown that is being studied, the world of the infinitely small. So this is really the sort of question that we've been investigating, on how could we bring some poetry to sort of get through human sensitivity and erase at minima curiosity and some awareness around this science that is actually really counterintuitive at a first approach. And so I'm here because I've been working in France with the different scientists, and actually there is this great program here thanks to the different partners that is enabling to move forward this project with another laboratory who's actually really used also to working and collaborating with artists. Since I arrived, I've been working and meeting with the different scientists, and actually this is one thing that is really interesting me, is not so much, I mean, the concept of the atoms themselves. I mean, this is a part that I'm working on, but then comes the other part, which is also to me as important, which is the people around the world of the atom. So that's the world of the research that is actually gravitating around the world of the atom. And this is an environment that is really lively, really creative, and really craft-oriented, and I really see a lot of similarities with the way that artists will actually be developing their own research. So this is a thing that I've been interested in, and so meeting with the different scientists, there are also these kind of things that I really like, is everything that's going to garbage. It's part of my sort of area of interest, and the thing that I feel appealed to, and that I have a sort of a connection with. And so I've been recycling basically their drafts that were sort of meant for the garbage. So I have a bunch, you know, here. And it's sort of actually of an, it's to me the illustration of what's going from the brain to the paper without any sort of intermediation, because it's really roughly what's inside, visually then translated into the paper. So I've been actually working on these, and then I was thinking, you know, how I could, you know, create something and make them more lively, or and embed them within my research and sort of recycle them artistically. And so I've been working, I've been basically embedding them into canvas. So this is a way for me. So this is here, you can see you have a few ones. So it's basically mathematics formula that you can see. So it's kind of like the formula that you would see in the grimoire, you know, of this kind of alchemists that are doing this weird formula to get, you know, to provide access to the mystery of the unknown world. And then you have, you know, little drafts. You have also things about, you know, doing some maybe artwork, you know, to some extent. I mean, this is beautiful. I don't know yet actually how I will use them. So far I've been putting them on canvas, so it's been really like gluing it and then putting some varnish so that they could be actually work that I could paint on, because they actually become the canvas. And then I've been putting some colors because I work a lot with colors, so I've just sort of prepared them to be, you know, material for me to work on. And this is something that I'm still processing, so, you know, we'll see later on what comes out of it. We are here in front of a piece that I've been developing actually this week here inside this studio space that has been provided to me by the laboratory, and it's based actually on this idea of the atomic cloud, because we tend to think as the infinitely small scale particles as sort of like the planets, which would be actually the infinitely big scale environment, which is not the case, because I mean we tend to see the atom and then the electron gravitating around it, but the thing, it's more like an atomic cloud, what they call it. And so this was this idea that I was interested in sort of emphasizing. And so I've been working with the Museum Niepce of Photography in France to gather some images, and we were really pleased that we could use the beautiful photograph base of Peter Knapp, who is a photographer who gave all of his fund to the Museum Niepce of Photography. And so the thing is, I took these images, but I didn't really know where to paint it on, and so I was kind of wondering about it. And there is one thing that really struck me when I was actually in the QMI here, is that in every lab that I've visited so far, they use these emergency blankets, which is actually this kind of, you know, blankets that you see, that you cover yourself with, you know, when you go hiking or when you have an issue, and they use them everywhere. And I've seen that in every laboratory, whether it be in Paris and also here. And so to me, it struck me that it could be good material to sort of the same way that they will use this sort of not meant to be for this situation material and use it and craft it as a way for me to do the same and paint this, to use it at the surface as a sort of canvas, which I'm not really used to be using, and do this painting, which will be presented in the exhibition space for the next exhibition that I'm working on for the Musée Poincaré in Paris.